You've been waiting all week for that Saturday show. Tune in, see what happened, let your troubles go. Work real hard, now it's time to take it slow. Kick back and relax with that Saturday show.
Good morning, Albuquerque, and welcome to another episode of That Saturday Show. I'm Jim Harvey, your host, and we've got another exciting program for you today. First of all, let me tell you, I'm glad the snow is gone, aren't you? It's gone. The sun is back out, and there are whispers that spring is on the way. Yes! Let me start with a little news for you here. Nationally, Denver, Colorado, just 6 hours up the road, has successfully sent mental health professionals, not police, to hundreds of calls. That's a program that we keep hearing is about to start here in Albuquerque, but we haven't seen it yet. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that it'll soon be up and running, and it'll be as successful as Denver is boasting it will be. Local news. Interim Police Chief Harold Medina has admitted that Mayor Tim Keller's four violent crime reduction programs are all failures. Now, I don't know this to be true, I don't know this to be false, but this is what's being reported, and this is what the interim police chief is saying. Now, if he's willing to get out on a limb because he wants to be the next police chief, but if he is saying this, there's got to be something to it. And all I can do is offer a little advice to our illustrious and esteemed mayor, and that is, Mayor Keller, when you start introducing programs like this, talk to the community first. See what we really need. Listen to what we've got to say and make certain that it is factored into what you are planning to do. You'd be surprised how successful that could be. Got an exciting announcement for you. The first Community Restorative Justice Center takes flight on March 1st. A Community Restorative Justice Center, which is a service and a place where community members can get assistance in resolving disputes. What is community restorative justice? It's a way of responding to conflict, misbehavior, or wrongdoing that makes things as right as possible for all those who are impacted. These principles guide our actions in response to wrongdoing, misbehavior, and conflict, and in our response team and how we respond to those discussions can make a difference in the lives of both victims as well as perpetrators. It starts Monday, March 1st, at the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice. Call us if you have a dispute, 505-268-9557, and ask for the RJ Center. Finally, just a little thought I want to share here before we get deeper into our program. It's about the concept of one Albuquerque. That's a concept that should have so much more punch in its message than it seemingly does. There's enough stuff going on in this city that needs our attention, and we aren't giving it the attention it needs. More police murders of unarmed civilians, the rising tide of homelessness, rental costs are skyrocketing, neighborhood gentrification, an unresponsive public school system, loss of employable talent. Yeah, people are fleeing the city when they could be here, get a decent job, and help with the economy. Institutional and government levels of racism, and so much more. People here see a need, or in many cases, an opportunity, and suddenly a new group is formed or created. A couple of people get together and they say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to create this. And too often these new groups are formed in spite of another group or a personality, and things become more and more about those personalities and those opportunities than about addressing the real need. So here's the challenge. To those who are in business for the wrong reasons, dare to reach out to others who are doing the same work. There's a concept. And seek to reconcile your differences. There's another concept. And find ways to do something that we just don't know how to do in Albuquerque too well. Work together. There's real strength in a truly one Albuquerque. We've got an exciting program today, and we have a very special guest that I am so honored to introduce to you. Bishop Anthony Boyd from Indianapolis, Indiana. Bishop Boyd, welcome to That Saturday Show.
Thank you.
And welcome to Albuquerque.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Okay. We'll let you in on a little secret about Bishop Boyd later on in this program, But we're here because I don't know if you all have seen it, but there's a terrific program right now that's running on PBS called The Black Church. And it's time that we bring history and strength of the Black church, into your living rooms. There's so much strength, so much achievement, so much accomplishment that comes out of the Black church. And so I think it's fitting and very appropriate and proper that we end Black History Month with this discussion with Bishop Anthony Boyd. Bishop?
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your church.
Well, I am the very proud pastor of Universal Ministries Worldwide Assembly, located in Indianapolis, Indiana, the Midwest, where it's cold and snowy right now.
Oh, we're so sorry.
Oh, yeah, but that's just the way of the land during this time of year. We call ourselves the spiritual church with a positive ministry. It's not just about going to church on Sundays and worshiping God on Sundays, but we go to worship on Sunday and then serve throughout the week. And so that's why we call ourselves the spiritual church with a positive ministry. We're spiritual, meaning that we have a positive outlook on everything that we put our hands to.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Our endeavor is to be a blessing to the community.
And I bet you are.
We try.
I bet you are. Yeah, I really do. So share your thoughts with our viewers about the continuing oppression of Black people and how it's affected Black people overall.
Well, Jim, it's no secret that contrary to popular belief, we have not arrived. Many people think that because we've gone beyond Selma and Montgomery and even Memphis, that we have reached such a great plateau. But there are so many more heights to achieve because we are still suffering as a people. And it used to be that we were suffering behind closed doors. There are many cases we're still suffering in the open. Mm-hmm. We're still oppressed. We're still questioned. We're still gunned down. That's
right. That is right. That's one of the things that concerns us, and we've got to figure out a way to put an end to it. I'm known for making controversial statements, so this one probably won't shock you, but it may shock some of the viewers. But here it goes anyway. I say that the lessons and the achievements we learned during the height of the civil rights movement, have been lost in what we think are gains out here. suddenly we can go into business and we can achieve higher, financial heights. We can live in, different and better neighborhoods, and we can do a lot of things, but at the same time, the people that we have struggled against historically are still out there struggling against us. I like to say that the Civil War is still going on, in fact. The South hasn't lost yet. They've just failed in a few skirmishes, and that's been it. But they figured out new ways to continue that same battle. And what we have failed to do, those of us who were back in the 60s in particular, is to teach the history of the struggle and teach the lessons of the struggle.
Yes.
And then carry that forward so that, those who have come after us know the value and the importance and the reality of continuing that struggle because it's still there.
It's still very much there.
Yeah. So we're talking today, and we talk every day about, the ongoing problem of black people being murdered at the hands of the police. We just had, another murder here in Albuquerque just last week. And, that sends chills up my spine to know that after all the discussion, all of the newsworthy coverage that there is out there, that the police seem to still not care, and they go on and they do it anyway. So just share your thoughts about this ongoing problem of black people being murdered by the police.
Well, Jim, it's not just native to Albuquerque. That problem dwells nationwide, from the smallest hamlet to the largest metropolis. Prejudice, in many ways, is still very much alive. And prejudice is not something that's inbred. It's something that is taught. And so I'm finding that there are many people that celebrate and call themselves part of the law. They don't look at the law itself. They don't even look at the citizen other than the color of our skin. And it seems like we're reliving days gone by when, if you're black, you represent something bad. You represent something evil. And before you're even given a chance, you're gunned down. And it's a very, very sad situation because those that are at the hand of this forget that they have children at home. They have a young son, a young daughter who may not be perfect. And we can't continue to judge and say, oh, that's a black person, they're guilty. No, you're not guilty until proven guilty. And we're at a day and age now where they don't want to talk. They shoot first, talk later. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what's so frightening. And it seems like we're almost powerless to do anything about it because these are the people that have the weapons.
They have the weapons.
These are the people that have the law behind them.
Yes.
What was it, just last week, there was the grand jury found the police not guilty in the murder of the young man up in Aurora, Colorado.
All over again.
It happens all over again.
Yes.
There's no justice.
None.
There's just no justice. Share your hopes, and just wrapping this up real quickly, just share your hopes or your outlook for the future of African Americans in this country.
Well, first of all, we as African Americans have to remember that our number one foundation in our homes growing up was the power of prayer. Whether you pray to Jesus, like I do, or what other higher power, there was a power greater than ourselves that we can rely on for strength, for courage, for a sense of direction, to have answers to these problems so that we can all sit down at the table and reason. Now, you have to remember that I am a gospel preacher, so I've got to throw some Bible in here. The Bible itself does say, come, let us reason together. So it's going to take the everyday citizen as well as City Hall to sit down and work together and end these internal conflicts in each of our communities.
Bishop Anthony Boyd, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And now you've got a special presentation that you want to make?
Oh, and I'm honored to make this presentation. I'm pleased, very pleased to introduce an exciting new production that, even though we're bringing it to you during Black History Month, it deals with a timeless, very timeless subject: Black men being murdered by the police. The show is called Emergency, Save Our Sons. And I am so pleased that my son, Hasani Olujimi, is the producer. Won't you now hear, watch, and receive Emergency, Save Our Sons?
Look.
Going back to 75th. Going towards 74.
Oh Lord, I want you to help me. I said, oh Lord, I want you to help me. Help me on my journey. Help me on my way. Yeah. Oh Lord, I want you to help me.
Going back to 75th.
There is an emergency in this country, and it is the oldest and the most urgent emergency in history. People of African descent are being murdered in the name of the law. Hear personal stories of sadness and pain. Hear echoes of anger and rage. Hear urgent calls for changing this tragic narrative. Shh. Black men are speaking.
Christopher, blind but now I see. Journal entry, February 4th, 2021. Location, downtown emergency room. How is this happening? I just don't understand. Why to him? He never did anything wrong. Why is this happening? He was a man, just like anyone. He loved everyone and helped all he could with whatever he had. Everyone who met him knew that instantly about him. But these animals only saw one thing: the color of his skin. It didn't matter that he was revered, respected, and yes, loved. It only mattered that they saw the color of his skin. That was enough to shoot him. There was a time, not so long ago, that I was blind to the way I looked. I did not see myself as a man, only a man in America. I had not learned that other people saw me in a way that I just didn't know about. I was blind. Well, now I see. Those words, of course, really come from my mom's favorite hymn, Amazing Grace. And those words, blind but now I see, truly had meaning and would continue to have meaning in my life. My parents loved and still love me and my sisters with every fiber of their being. My sister and I are adopted. Me first and my sister a year later. And I think, Journal, My sister described best what my family looked like. Now I ask that you take this with a grain of salt, as this was said with the mindset of a 5-year-old who was not afraid to speak her mind and who also loved chicken tenders. Daddy is a medium rare, not quite good to eat. Big bro is burnt chicken. Mommy is dead chicken meat white, and I'm just right. My parents did not see race. They only saw their children. And because of their love and support, my sister and I never had to experience any sort of racism. Or if we did, we were completely blind to it. The church we went to as a family was one of the biggest Episcopal churches in the Southwest. I did clearly in the minority. I was the only black person at that church. But I didn't realize it at first. The people who I grew up with never said or acted any way towards me. When I was young, we were our parents' children, and if our parents were able to show unconditional love, well, so could they. As when I started going to school, my eyes began to open. A quote from my first friend I made at school when he first got home to his parents. Mom, today I met a black boy at school, and now we are best friends. To this day, that man is still my best friend. But I remember thinking at the time, what a funny thing to say. Being described as only a black boy had never really happened to me before, and being so young in school, I didn't truly dwell on it. But as I got older and my class began to wake up in a sense, I saw a startling thing. I was the only black person in my entire school. And I would remain that way until 5th grade came along, and lo and behold, a black family came to the school. I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, but I had no idea why. The eldest son and I became instant friends, and we bonded. And a year later, we would experience firsthand why we had bonded. And we got a glimpse of how our classmates saw us. As a class, we began to read aloud the story of Huckleberry Finn. The first time I heard the word nigger, when the teacher read that word aloud, all our classmates turned to us and began to give us looks. My friend looked completely shaken, but I was confused. What had just happened? What I had just seen, and how, by God, do I unsee those looks those classmates give me when that word nigger got spoken aloud? Unfortunately, once your eyes have been open, it is impossible to close them. After I began to notice subtle things at first from classmates, then from strangers. A look there, a comment here, that I really didn't understand. My parents who loved me saw this struggle and tried their very best to help me deal with what I was going through. But sadly, they did not know how to best help me. And going into high school, I was faced with even more uncertainty of how people saw me and how I saw myself. And again, I was one of only 2 black people in my entire high school, and no black women to speak of. Back in middle school, I had taken a liking to track and field. For if there was one thing I had learned about my culture was this: black people can run like hell. Again, being on a team that I was the minority on also made me stand out in a totally different way that I was not aware I could be called out for. Why is there only one black guy on their team? You don't play basketball or football? What's wrong with you? Are you okay? All of a sudden, it was expected of me to be good at sports, to play as many of them as possible. I truly did not know what to think. Never in my life had I felt pressure to be someone just because I was black. This would be the first time, but hardly the last. I met Edmund my first year away from my parents and friends in my first year in college. I left my comfort zone of my friends and I entered a world that I'd only glimpsed at. When my parents left me at college, I felt scared, alone, and in a sense, more blind than I was before. I was the only one from my graduating class in high school to go to this college. But quite unlike high school, I was not alone in one aspect. I was one black man among thousands. So many people that looked like me. And I was a part of them, not competing against them or being compared to them. I was one of them. Edmund was a student counselor, at least a self-proclaimed one, if not official one. I would always see him talking with someone new, never at the same table at lunch or dinner, and always with a smile on his face or laughing. Oh, his laugh. I knew I had to meet him, but as fate would have it, he came and introduced himself to me first. And by the end of that conversation, I had made a friend for life. And he had given me one very important thing. This journal. And with it, he told me this: the one you have is way too short for your story. The one you have is way too short for your story. Edmund saw me that day, and he loved me for who I was, not because of our skin. He saw me, and I saw him. They did not see him. They only saw a black man running. They didn't see the man who cared not only for his friends, but for complete strangers. They didn't see a grandson walking his grandma across the street, or a cousin throwing a football across a field, or a brother preaching the truth. They only saw a black man running. They only saw what they wanted to see. Well, damn it, it's time for them to see what I see. What my brothers and sisters have seen, some of them have known nothing but this terrible pain. I say now, I will not be silent. I will make sure that Edmund will be seen. My brothers and sisters will be seen. I will be seen, and you will see. You are blind, but you will see.
Rich, I'm tired of running. It's been a minute since I've been in a hospital. Not since Papa had passed away. Oh, I've never actually watched a football game in a hospital before, and now that I think of it, I haven't even watched a game since he had passed away. You know, he was 5'2", 120 pounds of bronze skin, and his hair was all white. Kind of white like the cotton that he used to pick. It was kind of nappy, so usually he had a bald head when my mom used to come around. And he used to be very hard of hearing. Blame that on all the machinery and the farm equipment that he used to be around all of the time from sun up to sundown. Mom used to cut his hair on the front porch, and I can remember back when we were at my grandparents' house and my cousin and I used to run through the yard and run through the fields with this football. Now that I think about it, as much as I've loved the game of football, it's caused me a lot of heartache as well. I remember when my cousin and I used to play in the yard and he would see us running full of joy without a care in the world. Now, he was known for making up these songs, not like the blues or country or folk songs or what have you, but he would just make up these songs. Truck stop songs is what I would call them. One particular day, he used to sing a song, and it went like this. Run, nigga, run. or the patty roll will get you. And he used to just sing this over and over and over and over again. And of course, my grandmother, as sweet as she was, would get upset and say, Chester, don't sing that song in front of those boys. They don't need to be hearing all of that. And he would laugh and laugh and laugh, as if he was in on some sort of sick and twisted joke, as that he was only in on back then. I always wondered what he meant by that song. I wonder, was it a song that he would think of when the Klan would bust the windows out of my grandparents' house? I wonder if it was a song that he was thinking of when they smashed the windows out of his tractor and his farm equipment because he was the only black man that didn't have to rely on the white folks for land, property, and cattle. I wonder, and I imagine that this was a song that my older brother heard when the police pulled guns on him for a crime that he didn't commit. And I damn sure know it was a song that my youngest brother heard of when he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. I'm sure it was a song that all of us had heard, whether subliminally or explicitly, in all of our lives as young black men and women. I didn't know it was going to be a song that I would hear at my high school varsity football game down in West Texas. It was 1st and long, and we were on defense. That Friday night game was not like any others we had played. It was our district championship football game, and my entire family, including my grandfather, was there. Picture this. Quarterback snaps the ball. As the defensive line locked in with the offensive line, me and the other linebackers, we charged toward the quarterback. Seeing the fear in his eyes, I read his every move. He throws the ball without purpose. Quickly, I rush to intercept the ball. I catch it. As I'm running down the sideline, my adrenaline builds and all I hear is this white noise. 40, 35, 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown. Oh man, my teammates and I were excited and they were slapping my helmet. And as I headed to the bench, my triumph quickly turned into embarrassment and shame. As I was running, I realized they weren't cheering for me, they were jeering me. Saying, "Run, nigga, run." Things got so bad that we needed a police escort over the next 2 counties. Every time I see that football or a football, I think of the pain that my grandfather must have felt. I remember going to college and playing college football. My father being a former college athlete turned police officer. Oh, he was so proud. Only difference is he went to an HBCU to play, a historically black college and university, for those who don't know. I remember running through the tunnel, running laps in practice, running for an end zone as I picked off an interception, and most importantly, I remember running from white boys who threw bleach-filled balloons at myself and my other black teammates and classmates because we weren't the right color, so we needed to be bleached. It got so bad, I would have nightmares and I would skip class just to get rest. Of course, before I knew it, my grades slipped and I was on academic probation and I became ineligible to play. I remember begging my parents just to leave and to get away from all of this riffraff and this madness so I could just live. And that was not the only incident, particularly racial, that I had on that campus. And there were so many and so many other stories that myself and my other classmates had, and I swore to them that I would never tell their stories. So what did I do? Like my father, I ran to an HBCU. What more could you ask for? And for the first time in my life, I felt safe. I felt challenged. I felt loved. I felt respected. And most importantly, I felt I had value. No one here was worrying about running. Listens to the calf, or running the class, or running for student government, or just running on the football field or the track team where we didn't feel like prized cattle. Where I wasn't being told to shut up and dribble, or in this case, run. I could just live. This phenomenon of black people running away is not just some new thing that we've been doing for centuries. Hell, I would even say it's in our DNA. But think back to the infancy of this country. Slaves would run from their masters in search of freedom. I'm a stats man, so let me give you some numbers. It got so bad that they had to pass the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Devastated, and they heightened the penalties for all fugitive slaves and those who aided them. Between 1850 to 1860, approximately 100,000 slaves had escaped to freedom. Now think about this. That was only 2.5% of the 3.5 million slaves that were living in the United States. Nowadays, in 2021, who would know that we would still be running today? Now we run for police bullets. Now we run from educational systems that do not educate our children effectively and equally. Now we run out of economic opportunities that do not allow us to provide for our families. We run out of patience with people who tell us that we live in a post-racial society, and as we run for political office and ascend the heights in the American government, hell, we almost ran out of hope. I always used to hear the old folks say, oh, keep on running on anyhow, and oh, I'm going to run on to see what the end is going to be. And I would hear people preach that the race is not given to the swift, but to those who endure to the end. Every time I turn around, I hear about my people running and running and running and running. Damn it is hard and exhausting being black in this country. Do you think that Stokely Carmichael ran? Do you think Marcus Garvey ran? Malcolm X, Assata Shakur, Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton? Do you think that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ran? Sometimes I wish they did. So they can let me know that being young, gifted, and black means that you don't have to worry about a target being placed on your back. But I guess at the end of the day, I guess one thing I know is that to run is to survive, to make progress and to have hope for a better tomorrow. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. And if you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. I want to help others survive too, even if that means that I've stopped running.
Rolling. Maxwell, I'm tired of being black and blue. I recall my grandmother saying, Maxwell, baby, you come from a long line of honorable military veterans. I would love to see you serve our country too. And always give back to your local community and live your life with PDH. PDH, pride, discipline, and humanity. Those are 3 strong fibers sewn into the fabric of my being. And these principles help sustain me in my current position as a trauma nurse. Now, 3 letters I do not like are GSW, gunshot wound. And especially when it's related to another unarmed black man who's been shot by the police. Now, on what I would consider a normal day with a GSW case, I would be able to speak to the victim and gather details about the shooting. But when it comes to victims of police shootings, 9.5 times out of 10, it's too late. They're dead. My sense of purpose to help heal the wounded and provide care for those patients who I meet on their worst day, my purpose begins to reach a level of burnout. Witnessing body count of dead black men adding up from year to year, month to month, week to week, day to day. Now, the black community has also reached a level of burnout with police shootings and these senseless murders of young black lives. How in the hell do you, Mr. Officer, fear for your life when you got mace, a billy club, taser, and backup? And you still murder an unarmed black man? Even when you mistakenly walk into that black man's home, shoot him while sitting on his couch, watching TV, eating ice cream. I guess it's oops, wrong apartment. Trauma nurses, we deal with an overwhelming amount of PTSD. Our work environment is intense and our pace is relentless. But I can't stop the fear of not if, but when When will my coworkers have to try to save my black life from an unprovoked shooting? The black community is and always will live with PTSD, which has been generously bestowed upon us by the American experience. Newsflash, it's hard while living black in America. I'm tired of seeing our young black sons, fathers, and brothers being rushed into my ER due to another senseless police shooting. I wonder if by chance did the church condition me spiritually to be too vulnerable. I mean, like those lessons of love, kindness, and forgiveness. But when an unarmed black man is murdered and the police brutality is on the rise, am I supposed to search through the spiritual jungle and hunt down some forgiveness, understanding, and turn the other cheek? I think not. Those are the moments I need the God of wrath, fire, and brimstone. Let that be the message. It's confusing for me to know when and how to turn off and on love and compassion. You see, when I was sworn into the military to serve my country in the Navy, my chest was swollen with an overwhelming amount of pride. Making my parents proud, growing up and demonstrating my honor to my country, and following in my family's honorable footsteps. Now, when you see me wearing my veteran's baseball cap, it's because I am proud to have served my country, and it was my pleasure. But also I wear my cap to get a crumb of respect, humanity, tolerance, just for being a black man, a black man in America. Now, when you see me wear my veteran's baseball cap or my Navy lapel pin, I receive lots of smiles and handshakes and comments of thank you for your service. Now, in this temperature, I plaster my car with veteran stickers. I have a veteran's license plate. Hell, I even have my veteran status on my license. So I can use anything to maybe just be treated better than a big black threat, Mr. Officer, as I reach for my license and registration. Sad to say that even wearing my Navy cap, my lapel pin, hell, even full uniform, that does not guarantee you a damn thing, especially in today's America. Hell, yesterday's too. I recall the true story of Sergeant Isaac Woodard, honorably discharged from the Army, awarded many medals during World War II. The day he was honorably discharged from the Army, he boarded a Greyhound bus towards home to reunite with his family. Isaac asked the Greyhound bus driver if he had time to use the restroom before the bus pulled out of the station. The bus driver gave him a hard time, but he allowed him the basic human right to do so. The driver gave him that chance, that basic human chance, you guys. So Isaac went to the restroom, he got back on the bus, and the journey continued peacefully until it got to the next town. See, what Isaac didn't know was that the bus driver had already called ahead to the police in the next town. So when the bus arrived, the police forcefully removed Isaac from the bus. They took him to a nearby alleyway and they beat him. They arrested him. Then they beat him again in his jail cell. In court, Isaac was found guilty and fined $50 for disorderly conduct. He also testified that he was brutally beaten and jabbed in the eyes with the billy club, which blinded him for life. After the police chief admitted blinding Isaac, the jury found the police chief not guilty after only 30 minutes of deliberation. Now, why is that not shocking today? Speaking of people and police brutality that has been generously bestowed upon us, black lives, let's not forget a few names among many. 1991, Rodney King. We can't forget our little brother, 2012, Trayvon Martin. 2014, Eric Gardner. 2015, Walter Scott. 2016, Philando Castile. 2017, age 6, Cameron Prescott. 2018, Bodum Jean. 2019, Tatiana Jefferson. 2020, Rashard Brooks, Daniel Prude, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and most recently, December 4th, Casey Gooden Jr., Columbus, Ohio. Andre Hill, December 22nd, Columbus, Ohio. I wish I could have witnessed Malcolm X's speech at the African Summit Conference in Cairo, Egypt in 1960. It goes a little bit something like this. Your Excellencies, the American government is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of 22 million African American brothers and sisters. We stand defenseless at the mercy of the American racists who murder us at no will for no other reason that we are black and of African descent. Our problems are your problems. We've lived in this country for over 300 years in the American den of racist wolves, in constant fear of losing life and limb. Recently, 3 students from Kenya were mistaken for American Negroes and were brutally beaten by New York police. Shortly after that, 2 diplomats from Uganda were also brutally beaten by New York police because they mistook them for American Negroes. If Africans are brutally beaten while visiting in America, imagine the physical and psychological suffering received by our brothers and sisters who've lived here for over 300 years. Our problem is your problem. No matter how much independence Africans get here on the mother continent, unless you wear your national dress at all times while visiting in America, you too may suffer the same psychological and physical manipulation that is an everyday occurrence for us. No one knows the master better than the servant. We have been servants in America for over 300 years. We have inside knowledge of this man who we call Uncle Sam. Therefore, you must heed our warning. Don't escape from European colonialism only to become more enslaved by the deceitful, friendly American dollarism. Blessings, good health, and wisdom be upon you all.
The sirens of today sound very different from the sounds of giant ships and rowboat oars of 400 years ago. The handguns and the automatic weapons of today are louder and more penetrating than the muskets of long ago. The sounds of broken bones and the cracking of whips, the scent of burning flesh and the screams, oh, the screams of agony that have become commonplace and seemingly eternal as they pierce our ears and crush our hearts. They linger on, unchanged. Mothers cry out today for their children who are ripped away from them by the present-day slave hunters, executioners. We call them police today, but we know better. The cries of those mothers are no different today than the cries of mothers whose babies were snatched from their arms in the slave markets and on the plantations to fetch another dollar for our oppressors, our murderers, our officers of the law. You, who brought us here against our will and who regarded us as mere commodities to make you a profit, you see us as no longer of any value to you, and you are correct. We are our own selves, which makes you hate us. We are in the way as we remind you of your original sin against us. We are a threat to nothing you can imagine, but we are still a threat. That young man who dared to try to make ends meet by selling loose cigarettes in a society that has systematically denied he even existed was strangled to death by today's slave catchers. We call them police today, but they still serve the same purpose. You hunt us down and you punish us with death while we sleep in our beds. And you burden us with pain. We fill your for-profit prisons with our children who have been pushed through and pushed out of your schools, where, by the way, very little, if anything, is taught that would make us feel relevant or valued. We are made to believe that we no longer have any value in white America, even though so much of this country was built on our backs. If we resist, we are told to go back to where we came from. But even that has been made impossible because we've been systematically cut off from our own history, our heritage, our land. We are told to shut up and pray about it. But who do we pray to with any confidence that God will listen, even if the God looks alien to us? We cannot see our faces in those pale images of some elusive and mystical being that we are told to wait on. And if we question why our sons and daughters and fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters must die at the hands of our oppressors, we are told that we should accept this unexplained wisdom. We tried to get it right by your standards. We accepted your religion, and we made it relevant to us. We changed our hair and bleached our skin. We practiced speaking like you. We denied any notions of who we are or who we might have been. We even adopted the very worst of your habits. You resent us for being free, while in reality we are not. You resent us for surviving the worst of your brutality, but we still feel the pain. You resent us seeking and sometimes finding a better life, even though we live under the constant threat of having that perceived success stripped away. We've even tried to stay in our own lanes and not upset your sick and wicked existence. We sit in the emergency rooms of your world wondering who will fall next, who will be rushed in looking like someone we know, struggling to breathe, or hoping the bleeding will stop. Yes, I still hear the guns and the breaking bones. I still hear the wailing pain of mothers who have lost their children at your hands and under your laws. And now I remember, oh, how I remember the brutality that landed on the shores of my native land. And I wonder, how did I come to this emergency room of pain and suffering? How did I arrive at this grief-filled life with so few answers? How do I come to not only survive, but thrive and become stronger? I'm a people who, despite all you do against us, are resolute and determined. I am of a people who were born of strength and power that no one can deny. I keep coming, and I keep standing, and I keep growing. I'm the will of my people. One day, that emergency room will stand silent because our ancestors are with us.
Oh Lord, I want you to help me. I said, oh Lord, I want you to help me. Help me on my journey. Help me on my way. Yeah. Oh Lord, I want you to help me.
The journey continues. The resilience, the determination continues. We want to end this show with Hasani Olujimi. What a wonderful world.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, bright blessed days, dark sacred nights. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? What they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Until the next time, it's time to say goodbye. When you out here in the streets, keep it real, 505. We love everybody, we just want to let you know. Thanks for tuning in to that Saturday show.